An ancient evil. The day began like any other in the small, unassuming village nestled at the base of a dormant volcano. The sun rose lazily above the horizon, casting a warm, golden light over the lush green fields that surrounded the village. Birds sang their morning songs, and the air was thick with the scent of flowers and freshly baked bread. Children played tag through the cobblestone streets, laughing and shouting in delight as they chased one another. Even the village's elderly residents, resting on their porches, seemed to be enjoying the peaceful morning. But beneath the idyllic surface, trouble was brewing. The villagers were unaware that deep beneath their homes, an ancient evil was stirring. For centuries, a powerful amulet had kept the amorphous darkness at bay, preventing it from rising and wreaking havoc upon the world. However, the amulet's guardian had grown old and weak, and the time had come for it to pass on the mantle of protection to a new guardian. A young girl, no more than 10 years old, had been chosen for the task. She was small and frail, but her heart was pure and strong. The old guardian had seen this in her, and knew that she would be the perfect person to take up the mantle. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the old guardian took the girl aside and entrusted her with the amulet, imbuing her with its power and wisdom. The girl, now the new guardian of the amulet, felt a surge of energy and determination course through her veins. She knew that she was now responsible for the safety of the village and all those who lived within it. With the amulet's power at her command, she vowed to keep the darkness at bay and protect her people from any harm. As she walked back through the village, the girl noticed a change in the air. There was a newfound sense of hope and courage among the villagers. They smiled at her and nodded their heads in approval, recognizing the weight of the responsibility she now bore. She could feel their trust and faith in her, and it filled her with a sense of purpose and pride. The girl spent the rest of the day learning about the amulet's powers and the history of the evil it had once vanquished. The old guardian taught her how to use its magic to protect the village and how to detect any signs of the darkness's return. As the sun began to set, casting a warm, orange glow over the village, she made her first round as the new guardian. The villagers went about their evening routines, tending to their animals, cooking dinner, and sitting together around the fire to share stories. They spoke of the girl with reverence and awe, recognizing the great responsibility she had taken on. The girl felt a newfound sense of belonging and purpose among them, knowing that she was now an important part of their community. As the night deepened, the girl patrolled the village, her senses heightened, ready to defend them against any threat. The air grew cooler, and the stars began to twinkle in the sky. She paused at the edge of the forest, feeling a strange tugging at the back of her mind. Something was not right. Cautiously, she ventured into the trees, her senses on high alert. The forest was silent, but she could feel a dark presence lurking just beyond her sight. With a steady hand, she drew forth the amulet, its glow growing brighter as it sensed the danger. Deeper she went, until the trees closed in around her, blocking out the last remnants of the light from the village. She moved carefully, her steps silent as a whisper, her eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. Suddenly, a branch snapped nearby, and she spun around, her heart racing. But there was nothing there. The forest was still and silent, as if it were holding its breath. She paused, trying to calm her racing heart, before continuing her search. As she rounded a bend in the path, she caught a glimpse of something flickering in the distance. It was a faint, eerie light, dancing among the trees. With renewed determination, she hurried towards the light, her steps silent and sure. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to deepen around her. The light grew brighter as she approached, until she finally emerged into a small clearing. There, at the center, stood an ancient tree, its branches twisted and gnarled, its bark scarred and pitted. Embedded within its trunk was a small, pulsing gem, the source of the strange light. She approached the tree cautiously, sensing a powerful presence emanating from it. The gem pulsed with an unearthly energy, as if it were alive. She extended a trembling hand, reaching towards it. As her fingers brushed against the cool surface of the gem, a voice whispered through her mind. It was ancient and malevolent, filled with hatred and rage. It spoke of the darkness it had spawned and the suffering it had caused, vowing to return one day and unleash its fury upon the world. The girl recoiled in horror, instinctively drawing back her hand. The gem continued to pulse, its light growing brighter and more intense. She knew that she could not simply leave it here, waiting for the chance to wreak havoc upon her village and all those she loved. But she also knew that destroying it would not be easy. She closed her eyes, focusing on the ancient voice still whispering through her mind. She tried to sense the nature of the darkness that had spawned the gem, to understand its weaknesses and vulnerabilities. As she did so, she felt a newfound calm wash over her, a sense of purpose and determination that she had never known before. Opening her eyes, she looked once more at the pulsing gem. She reached out and touched it again, this time with a newfound confidence. The ancient voice spoke once more, but now it sounded different. It sounded surprised, confused. It sensed her newfound strength and resolve, and it did not like it. Drawing upon all her courage, the girl gripped the gem tightly in her hand. As she did so, the tree began to shudder and groan, its branches swaying wildly above her head. The ancient voice grew more desperate, more furious, but she held on, refusing to let go. The gem glowed brighter and brighter, the light searing her eyes, but she did not look away. Finally, with a mighty crack, the gem shattered, its energy dissipating in a blinding flash. The tree fell silent, its branches drooping limply to the ground. The air was still, the darkness vanished. The girl stood there, panting, her hands still clenched around the shards of the gem. As her vision returned, she looked around in wonder. The forest was peaceful once more, the sunlight streaming through the branches, bathing the ground in a warm, golden glow. She knew that the danger had passed, that her village would be safe. She clutched the shards of the gem to her chest, feeling a strange mixture of sorrow and triumph. She had destroyed the source of the darkness, but at the same time, she had destroyed a part of herself as well. The ancient voice would no longer whisper to her, no longer guide her. She would have to find her own way in the world now. As she turned to leave the clearing, she paused for a moment, looking back at the fallen tree. Its scarred and battered trunk seemed to be a testament to the centuries it had spent in this forest, witnessing the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of countless beings. It was a reminder that even the strongest and most ancient things could eventually be brought down by the determination and courage of a single individual. The girl walked through the forest, her steps now lighter and more confident than before. She knew that she had been changed by her encounter with the gem, and that the world would never look the same to her again. She wondered what new challenges and adventures lay ahead, what hidden secrets the world still held, and what role she would play in its unfolding story. As she continued her journey, she found herself drawn to a small stream, its waters gently flowing over smooth rocks. She sat down on a mossy boulder, watching the water ripple and dance as it made its way towards the distant horizon. She felt a strange connection to the stream, as if it were a reflection of her own inner journey, a reminder that even the most insignificant seeming things could have a profound impact on the world. The girl dipped her hands into the cool water, letting it wash away the last traces of the gem's influence. She felt lighter, freer than she had in a long time. She knew that she had made the right choice, that she had done what needed to be done to protect her village and those she loved. As she sat there by the stream, she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The air was crisp and clean, filled with the scent of pine and the sounds of birds singing. She listened to the water as it flowed past, feeling its gentle caress against her skin. She thought about all that had happened, and all that was yet to come. She knew that she would never truly be the same again, that the events of the past few days had irrevocably changed her. But she also knew that she was stronger, wiser, and more resilient than she had ever been before. She had faced down her greatest fear, and conquered it. As she sat there by the stream, lost in thought, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. She was no longer defined by the darkness that had once consumed her, but rather by the light that she had fought so hard to reclaim. She was her own person now, forging her own path through a world that was filled with both wonder and danger. The girl stood up, brushing the dirt and leaves from her clothes. She looked around, taking in the beauty of the forest one last time before setting off towards home. Her village was still some distance away, but she felt confident that she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. She knew that she would never truly be alone again, not as long as she had the memories of the ancient tree and the gem it had sheltered. As she walked, she found herself humming a tune she hadn't heard since she was a child. It was a simple melody, almost forgotten, but now it seemed to echo through her entire being. She wondered if the tune had been passed down through generations, a reminder of the ancient wisdom and power that had once been a part of her people. The forest thinned, and she could see her village in the distance, perched on a hill overlooking the river. Smoke rose lazily from the thatched roofs, and the sound of laughter and clanging pots drifted on the breeze. She felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of longing and anticipation. As she neared the outskirts of the village, she came across a young boy, no more than 6 or 7 summers old, chasing a rabbit through the tall grass. He stopped when he saw her, his eyes wide with wonder and curiosity. She smiled down at him, feeling a surge of protectiveness and affection. "Hello, little one," she said gently. "What's your name?" I'm not sure," he stammered, his eyes darting back and forth between her and the rabbit. "My mama called me little one. The girl laughed, a warm and gentle sound. "Well, little one, it's nice to meet you. My name is Aoife. Do you like chasing rabbits?" The boy nodded emphatically, his cheeks reddening with excitement. "They're so fast," he exclaimed, watching the rabbit disappear into a thicket of brambles. "Do you want to help me catch it?" Aoife knelt down next to the boy, her green eyes twinkling with mischief. "All right, little one, let's give it a try." Together, they followed the rabbit deeper into the forest, weaving through the dense undergrowth and leaping over fallen logs. As they continued their pursuit, Aoife found herself marveling at the boy's boundless energy and innocence. It was a reminder of her own childhood, of the time before the darkness had consumed her and stolen her joy. The forest grew darker and more mysterious as they ventured deeper, the sunlight struggling to filter through the canopy of leaves above. Aoife felt a shiver run down her spine, but she didn't let it dampen her spirits. Instead, she drew strength from the boy's unwavering determination. They chased the rabbit for what seemed like hours, laughing and dodging branches and thorns. Finally, they emerged from the forest onto a clearing, the grass soft and lush beneath their feet. In the center of the clearing, surrounded by a ring of mushrooms, stood the rabbit. Aoife smiled down at the boy, impressed by his stealth. "Well done, little one," she said, patting him on the back. "You've done it. You've caught the rabbit." The boy beamed with pride, his chest swelling as he looked at his prize. He turned to Aoife, his face serious. "Now what do we do with it?" Aoife smiled down at him, her green eyes twinkling with mischief. "Well, little one, we could have it for dinner tonight. Your mother would be proud of us for bringing home a fresh rabbit." The boy's face fell at the mention of eating the rabbit, but he didn't object. "Or," Aoife continued, "we could let it go back into the forest. After all, it's only doing what rabbits do." As they stood there, considering their options, the forest seemed to whisper to them. Aoife felt the ancient magic of the place, the wisdom and harmony that had been a part of her people for countless generations. She looked at the rabbit, then at the boy, and knew what they must do. "Little one," she said softly, taking his hand in hers, "I think we should let the rabbit go. It belongs in the forest, just as much as we belong in our village. Would you like to set it free?" The boy nodded slowly, his eyes filling with tears. "Yes, Aoife," he whispered. "I would." They knelt down in the grass, Aoife's hand still firmly clasped in the boy's, and together they gently lifted the rabbit. It was surprisingly heavy, but neither of them seemed to mind. They carried it to the edge of the clearing, where a stream babbled over smooth stones. The air was filled with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers. "This is where we found it, isn't it?" Aoife asked softly, her voice barely audible over the sound of the running water. The boy nodded, his gaze never leaving the rabbit. "Then let's set it free," she whispered, and with that, they released their grip on the rabbit. The rabbit took a tentative step forward, then another, before darting away into the forest. Aoife and the boy watched it disappear, their hearts filled with a strange mix of sadness and joy. They sat there in silence for a while, the sounds of the forest surrounding them like a comforting embrace. Finally, Aoife stood up, offering the boy her hand. He took it gratefully, and they began the long walk back to the village. As they walked, Aoife felt a new connection to the boy, a bond that went beyond their shared experience of chasing the rabbit. She knew that she had been given a rare gift, the chance to share a small piece of her people's magic with someone who might one day carry it forward. Background as they left it behind, replaced by the simple beauty of their village. Aoife could see the boy taking it all in, his eyes wide with wonder and curiosity. She wondered what kind of life he would have here, among the simple thatched huts and the friendly faces. Would he grow up to be a hunter, a farmer, a healer? Or perhaps something else entirely. The possibilities were endless. As they walked, they passed by the village square, where a group of elderly women sat weaving baskets and gossiping about the day's events. Aoife nodded at them as they passed, feeling a pang of affection for the women who had taught her so much about life, love, and the ancient ways. She glanced down at the boy and saw him watching them with interest, perhaps sensing the connection they shared. They continued on, winding their way through the maze of narrow streets, past colorful thatched huts with smoke curling lazily from their chimneys. Children played tag in the dirt, their laughter filling the air, and chickens clucked and scratched in the yards. Despite the simplicity of their lives, Aoife felt a deep sense of contentment in her heart, a knowing that she belonged here, among her people. As they neared Aoife's home, a small, cozy hut nestled at the edge of the village, she glanced down at the boy and saw a curious expression on his face. "What is it you want to know?" she asked gently, sensing his questions. He swallowed hard, his gaze never leaving hers. "Why did the rabbit run away from us?" Aoife considered the question carefully before answering. "Well," she began, sitting down on a low stone wall near her home, "the rabbit is a creature of the forest, just like the deer and the foxes and the birds of prey. It belongs here, just as much as we belong in our village. Sometimes, when people take something that doesn't belong to them, they can become confused or scared. The rabbit was running away because it was trying to get back to where it felt safe, where it belonged." The boy nodded slowly, his eyes wide with understanding. "But you didn't mean it any harm, did you?" he asked. "You only wanted to help it." Aoife smiled gently. "Yes, that's true. Sometimes, we can't always understand why things happen the way they do. But we can try to be kind, and to learn from our mistakes." She paused, considering her words carefully. The rabbit might not ever forgive us for chasing it, but perhaps, in time, it will understand that we meant no harm. They sat in silence for a moment, watching a flock of birds flit across the sky. The boy seemed to be lost in thought, his eyes distant. Finally, he looked up at Aoife. "Do you think I could live here with you?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "In your village?" Aoife was taken aback by the question. It was not something she had expected him to ask. She considered her response carefully, searching for the right words. "That is a difficult question," she said gently. "You are not from our village, and your people might miss you. But if you truly wish to stay, I will speak with the elders and see what they think. They might be willing to allow it, if they believe it is for the best." The boy looked relieved, but also unsure. "Thank you, Aoife," he said quietly. "I promise I'll work hard to learn your ways and become a part of your village. I won't let you down."